everyone. How's everyone doing? Great. Awesome. Let's kick off then. Datahood was started as a passion project to help develop cities. So my background is from architecture and urban planning, and we were dealing with a lot of issues like pollution and car dependency and social issues that follow from people being closed in their private vehicles. So we looked very, very deeply into this problem, and we realized, we need to think of why people are so dependent on private vehicles. And what we recognized is the reason lies in services. We are highly dependent on services in our cities. And what our colleagues were talking about today, I can highly relate. How do we fill this need for services? And the way we look at this from a very personal perspective, we want to have a party, we want to go out to a nice pub, we want to go to work in a comfortable way. If it's cold outside, like -20 sometimes gets to Lithuania, we want to take our kids to school, and we want to go shopping eventually. All of this is done very, very easily by car. So we started looking at this problem at the very, very hyper-local level, from neighborhood level, and asking, how do we deliver services in those local neighborhoods? And today's trend is very, very interesting. We get overhyped with the newest technology because we see a lot of money being pushed towards that technology. And the trend we noticed recently is the electric vehicles, and what Rokas was talking just now. Electric vehicles maybe is the future, maybe hydrogen is the future. But what we're doing is we're looking back many years further down the line, and we're trying to figure out what is the most sustainable mean of transportation. And for the past 100 years, or a little bit less than 100 years, we relied on cars. But for thousands of years back, we relied on 2 feet to get to the things that we need. And this is really, really inspiring for us. So we started thinking, so what takes people to use their 2 feet more and not rely on other means? And we started looking at how those services that we so rely on appear close to us. And what we recognized is that businesses or the service provider, if it was a library, or if it was a coffee shop or a pizza chain, is highly relying on their intuition and eventually on a gut feeling, when they're down to make a final decision how to and where to open up. So we go deep into why does this happen, and what we're trying to understand is that when we live online, it's the whole internet is covered of data. We can get to know who's coming to our website. We can look at statistics of how our ads performed. But when we look at our physical world, even though we're so down to earth in the physical world, we do not have a lot of available data about this. How do people move? How does money move in a physical environment? We know it's digital, but people spend money somewhere. So we look at these things, and what we realize is that if we were to enable this kind of data to businesses, maybe they would go closer to their audience, and maybe they would start appearing closer to their end users, so people wouldn't be so reluctant on private vehicles. Therefore, what we're developing is a tool that collects all available data, specifically territorial data from all sources, from the internet, and also from private providers of that data. We analyze it, we overlay it, we enhance it with very, very interesting data points, and what we give is a solution, very, very easy to use solution for businesses to find what is the perfect location for them, depending on their business model. So who's going to buy my products, who's going to use my services that I provide? And in that sense, what we're hoping to is allow people to enable their hyperlocal environments so they're not so dependent on other means of transportation. As I mentioned, what we're focusing on is not on data scientists. Data scientists can get all of this data, try and make sense of it. What we're focusing on is on a decision maker, on a municipality level decision maker who's saying we're going to develop this neighborhood. Now we're going to invest into public space, or we're going to focus on developing bike infrastructure and so on. So we're trying to make this tool very visually understandable. And the interesting thing about data is that everyone's extremely curious and excited about this. And so yes, the future is data, but whenever we speak to businesses, what we notice is that we still end up with the one-person decision. Is this person going to trust the data or not? So our goal in here is to make it as simple as possible, extract it from wherever it is available online and offline. So coming back to the physical environment, not everything is tracked, or not everything that we think is not tracked is tracked. So we work with banks, we work with telcos to better understand their anonymized data, so no big brother happening in here. But to give this insight for the final decision maker, we focus mainly on retail and hospitality, because we realize that this is the service, or these are the services that we're most dependent on. But also we see real estate developers as these key accommodators for those services. But then we look at municipal level companies, how they enable public space when they are creating the environment for that business to be comfortable to operate in. The value that we bring with our tool to our customers is we help them to save money, we help them to become more efficient in their operations, and for the business part, we help to increase revenue. So I've heard before in some conversations, how is this going to become profitable and so on. And primarily we see business as this strong enabler into the changing of the environment, of our physical environment. That's why we firstly focus on them, but also we focus on governmental level, and that's why we're here in this program. And while focusing on them, we try to enable them to understand what is missing in our local communities, in our societies, by understanding these hidden layers and opportunities within data. As I mentioned at the beginning, very interesting thing happened with our team is that we kept on attracting architects and urban planners, because majority of our team realized at some point that doing small little local projects is not going to help to increase the development of our built environment. So most of our team, except a couple of data scientists, are architects, or with architectural backgrounds or urban planning backgrounds. And to sum up, what I want to invite you to think about is how do we think a lot more simply and a lot more hyper-locally. When we talk about technology, how do we enable communities and societies to be more physical down? And for those who've been at the very beginning of the session, I can't remember who was talking at that moment, but there were people parading down the street. They were protesting or something, playing drums. And wonderful things happen when we walk on 2 feet and we meet other people. We increase the resilience of our communities. We support local businesses, and also we decarbonize transport, because there is no transport. So thanks a lot, everyone.
Thanks very much. Cool. So, in terms of just kind of, I've got a quick question before anyone else. Before I. Oh, okay. Yes, Jacob. So there's a mic over there, please. Have you got the boom mic?
Yeah.
It's upside down.
Great stuff, really interesting. I was wondering, what about the role of qualitative data in this context? So, just as an example, where I live in Copenhagen, there's a clear development in demographical composition, so higher income people are moving to that part of the city. But unlike all other parts of the city, we have yet to get a really good bakery. That's like the default thing in all of the rest of Copenhagen, it's like a life, really sort of a quality of life type thing that a lot of people aspire to. Within a platform like the one that you're presenting, wouldn't it make sense for there to be like a qualitative input feature where people say, well, yeah, of course, look at my demographics, look at all these other things, and where passengers, where commuters are transporting themselves, but also a feature where they just say, why don't I have a goddamn bakery? And could that be integrated into a platform like the one that you're proposing, or that you've developed?
We've been thinking about kind of turning this B2B solution towards more B2C section, and that's definitely on our agenda, but that might slow down a little bit the development. That's why we firstly focus on businesses, because we see how fast they move when they see an opportunity. For a government to make a decision takes so long, for a municipality. For a small business like a bakery, it might be a snap of the finger to say, I'm going to move here if I have the data, if I have the knowledge that I'm going to be required, or I'm going to be bought in there,
What's so it's interesting that bakery. What sort of scale of companies are you targeting?
All sorts. We work with global companies, that have franchises all over the world. We also target small and medium enterprises because we see that they're the most affected by the lack of data or access. So we try and make our solution very affordable for those part that cannot pay high amounts of money, for certain data. But we work with the range, from real estate developers and asset managers to municipalities, and we see lots of great use cases.
And in terms of kind of the next stage for the company, investment side of things, what are you looking for? What are your plans for that? And do you have ideas about where you would go for that money, or are you still kind of looking?
We're in the middle of our fundraising process, and it's been very interesting but challenging at the same time. It makes us question, and we learn a lot more about how it should be done, in the making. But at this moment, we're raising 300K in our pre-seed. So far, we've been running bootstrapped, and because we're working with quite a few clients, it's been holding us up and supporting the development. But talking about the future, we're kind of seeing how it works in the smaller markets. We want to experience how places like Canada or even Latin America could adapt this technology to make a lot more development decisions. We see contrast in retail development in Lithuania, in 2 or 3 shops a year or half a year, where we see in other bigger markets, 15 shops that support local communities. And we're not talking only about, a crafty bakery. We're talking about affordable goods also. So we see, we don't discriminate the level of the company because they also provide value to the environment and to the communities.
Absolutely. Great stuff. Matas, thank you.
Thanks a lot, guys.
That's great. Thank you.